even though it looks like it's higher, it's because the rest of the wage is not in grants now.
Gotcha.
Okay?
So that 78413 represents the
2.5%.
765 plus 2.5%?
Yes. Yep.
So it's not up 42%?
No, it's not.
Thank you.
Okay.
And the board will probably continue to have a conversation about that particular line item as we enter into attempting to hire for that position.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Does anybody else have any questions on page 11? I guess Ken
Ken
has
has
Ken has
something
something
to
to
add
say.
here.
And it's kind of like the school nurse or the psychologist. We're contracting with MRI, as I stated, Municipal Resources Incorporated, who provide administrative services on an interim basis to municipalities as well as school districts. They're currently doing 5 searches. They say they have a demand for at least one business administrator every week. The bottom line salary that they're using, and they will assist us in the search, is $90,000. So Hillsborough just hired a new business administrator for $97,000.
Yeah.
And so this is, I'm just giving you a heads up, that 78, we're not sure is going to be competitive, highly unlikely.
Thank you.
I do still have a quick question here. The business services staff salary, just below that line item, is that the assistant business? All right.
That is the staff accountant, yes.
Yeah, so is that major, that say 42% increase also because of grant?
That's hours, actually.
Yeah, that's twofold. That's an increase in hours and salary.
Yeah, it's 10 hours a week. We cut 10 hours a week out of it last year, and it just is not, it doesn't work with
But
that.
that's how it's going to be based on 20 hours then?
It's going to be based on 32, actually. So I added in 8 hours, but last year it was at 34. This year it is at 24. I've added it back up to 32. That position just,
And the 2.5% increase?
yeah, and the 2.5% increase. And again, it's just,
Thank you.
it's very busy.
Can I, with your permission,
Of course.
clarify the business administrator position again, meaning that, yes, we're contracting with MRI, Municipal Resources Incorporated. They're going to give us a part-time person. It's not a full-time person. They're going to work 3 days a week for roughly the salary and benefits that we're paying our current business administrator. We also have talked about hiring a grants person through MRI at a pretty reasonable hourly rate. I think it's like $70 an hour, but we don't think we'll need that person a lot just to keep up on our grant applications and follow through the reports. We're thinking it might be like 3 or 4 hours a week. But I just want to say that, with the change of the business office, we're not going to have a full-time business administrator. The person will likely be doing a lot of remote work, but he lives in Derry, so he's not traveling here. But we'll work out that remote traveling consultation. But we also, you might see that we're going to be hiring that part-time grant person. So at the moment, yes, we have that staff accountant, but we're not sure that we're going to be able to complement or fill all the requirements of that full-time business administrator. But we'll give it our best shot. And just to be informing the Budget Committee that while we're contracting with MRI, we are already advertising for the position of business administrator. And we kind of have an agreement amongst the board that if we're not successful in finding a full-time person somewhere, I think we discussed February, March, with a reasonable period of time, we then might have to go to a temp agency. Typically, a temp agency will not give us a business administrator, they'll give us an accountant type. That's where we've hired Mary from a temp agency. 2 business administrators ago, we did the same thing. Both those persons had their training in Winchester, and in fact, the person that Mary's replacing at Hillsborough is the person that left here in Winchester for Hillsborough, I don't know, 6-7 years ago. But so we're going to be in a state of flux, so I'm trying to give you the most heads-up information that you're going to see some changes, particularly in this line.
Thank you.
Oh, Ken,
Just wait a minute.
oh,
How many SAU people do we have working up there right now, including yourself, Mary, the accountant? Now we want to, now we want more grant writers and whatnot, but right now, how many people are up there working from the SAU?
There's 4.
Okay, 4 of them. The superintendent,
Business administrator
it is business, admin,
and Marie,
the accountant.
and staff accountant. Who does payroll?
Okay, who's the other one? I only got 3.
Marie. Reese is,
Administrative assistant.
right.
You have an administrative assistant.
There's
does-
2 business people, the business manager and the business assistant, the superintendent and the superintendent's assistant.
But she's not just my assistant, she's also the assistant to
Right.
Mary. She's also the assistant to Ian. She's also our human
Now,
Human
we're
resource.
thinking about getting like a grant writer and somebody else. I guess.
No, I'm saying that when, in Mary's absence, when she leaves next, Mary does the grant applications now, but the part-time person who's going to replace Mary through the agency will not have the time to do that, but the agency can provide a person to do that service at an hourly rate. And I'm saying we think we might need it 3 hours a month.
I was going to mention with the grant writer is,
It's not a grant writer.
Right,
It is
she's
the
not-
person who manages the grants.
Our Title I grant, our Title II grant, our special
Okay.
ed grants.
So it's the
well,
person who ensures
he
that the
just kept
fin-
mentioning a grant person, so.
Yeah.
Well, I meant, right, but not to seek grants.
Here, right?
What's that?
The town has one right here, right?
We have a grant
It
writer.
always sees it though.
We have a grant writer. And then our business manager handles our grants that we get.
Right.
Right, and so they're existing grants, most of them are entitlement grants, but there's some financial applications that we won't have the resources to provide them, like excess cost and some financial accounting. So this person is merely going to provide the financial accounting for our existing grants. And if we don't have the financial accounting, we don't get the grants, we don't get the money. You could invest.
Right.
Thank you.
and I understand when you're talking about a grant writer, but really it's not a grant writer. It's me making sure and managing the grants that we have. Like Title I is allotted to us. I mean, that's something that we don't, they tell us how much money we're going to get. I have to make sure that within those grants, the activities are right when I pay a bill. So, because the state comes in and audits us and looks at all those bills to make sure that everything lines up. You know what I mean?
I have done it many a times, and
So-
I didn't hire anybody. The police department just put me in there, and I was an officer.
Right, and so our business manager typically handles that position. But because our business manager is leaving and we're contracting with another service, that service is only going to provide 3 days of service. So we
At a
need,
cost to us.
at a cost to us,
Instead of the business, whoever you replace for the business manager doing it.
Well, right now,
because when we replace our business manager's job duties include managing the grants.
That's what I'm.
Right.
That's what I'm getting at.
Right, so when we are able to replace them.
6 positions.
No,
You know, we don't need 6 positions.
no.
Tally up all the salaries right now, and it's a substantial amount, but we don't need 6 positions.
We're not talking about full-time positions, we're talking about a person to assist us in the financial accounting of our existing grants
Yes,
for
I
3
get
hours,
that. I get
3
that.
hours a
I got
month.
that.
So you
Okay,
can't count
I
that
got
as a
that.
full-time
But
person.
I'm not asking for rocket sciences either. I'm asking that the full-time person, Mary did it for so long, why are we gonna hire Mary's position when she leaves and a part-time person to do that?
We're not.
Okay, that's what you're indicating is that
No.
you're gonna hire Mary's position, okay? And you're gonna,
Mary
I
works,
just asked you if that
Mary
part-time
works
position,
five
if that part-time position was gonna be paid by the budget.
no, what it is,
Oh,
I work 5 days a week. I work full-time. The
Yeah,
person
I'm
that's
taking
coming
my
in
mask off for a
to,
second. I can't
in the
I have no
interim,
problems with you.
no, I know you
can't-
don't. I'm just explaining to you where the 3 hours come. He's only working 3 days a week.
But we're paying him for those 3 days a week, correct?
Correct, you are.
Okay, are we gonna hire somebody for your position for 40 hours on top of that?
No,
Okay.
No.
no.
That's what I was just asking.
no.
Okay, sorry.
When we're able to hire our full-time position at SAU 94, we will no longer contract with MRI for business manager.
We don't need, that's what my point was, we don't need 5, 6 people.
We're
doing
not-
A job that 4 people can do.
And that was, if I wasn't clear, our search process agreed to with the board in our contract with MRI. They're well aware that our search process has started now for a full-time business administrator. As soon as we've hired a full-time business administrator, MRI goes away.
And do we have any idea how much MRI is gonna charge on an hourly rate?
I think the hourly rate is like $90 an hour,
$90 an hour?
and right.
Thank you.
So it should come close within the budget items of Mary's salary and benefits is what they cost, but we're halfway through the year roughly. And again, we're hoping that we could bring in a temp agency. The temp agency will not give us a business administrator. They'll give us someone who's an accountant, who's familiar with doing the numbers, but they won't have experience in the grants or the other things, but hopefully we could train them again and get them up to speed.
Thank you. Any other questions on page 11?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Custodian wages. I know you mentioned adding 1 custodian to this. How many custodians total will this number represent next year?
So our current year budget is 4 full-time custodians. There's 1, I would call normal day shift, 1 kind of split shift, and 2 evening shift currently. That gives us 160 custodial hours. If you remember, there was a cut in custodial hours. That knocked it back to 185, and the school board, and I think that's the year you were still on, had so many complaints about the condition of the building that we added a position back in because we just couldn't do it at 185 hours. So this is proposed to add a 5th custodian, which is 1 more than we have. It's still less than what was cut with the 1.6. I lost 1.5 full-time employees, and this is returning 1, which will put us at a total of 200 custodial hours per week.
And I think it should also be mentioned that one of the reasons that it's even able to work this year is because we have a temporary custodian that we are paying for through the CARES Act. So
Yeah,
we still needed that staff, but we were able to fund that staff through an alternative means.
And
And
a much lower occupancy on a day-to-day rate. I mean, it's still a very large building, but when you have roughly 80 or 100 students in a day versus 350 or 400, they definitely make less mess and less trash.
And that custodian that's paid for through the CARES grant, that person's job is strictly just sanitation and sterilization
Correct. That
due to the
person is,
virus.
that person is solely running the UV lights we purchased with the CARES Act money. That is like, he is out straight to get every space we're using done in 8 hours.
Okay.
So he's not really actually assisting us in the cleaning of the building,
Right.
but he is making it a much more sanitary and safe environment.
Right, okay. And then buildings and grounds, and then director of facilities, is that all the same person?
No. So last year there was a lot of confusion about my salary and people saying I make over $100,000 a year because there was 2 positions in that. So we split the 2 positions into 2 lines.
So that's what it was looking like to me.
So
that's why
it was much clearer that I'm not a 6-figure guy by any stretch of it. And
You all
So
are not here.
you're,
You are.
you're the,
Right.
so your line item is the director of facilities.
Correct.
The buildings and grounds, that's for,
That's the nighttime supervisor slash custodians slash maintenance, everything that I can't do and I'm not there for at night.
okay,
That's his job, basically.
okay,
Thank you.
perfect.
Thanks, Ian.
All right.
And actually, one more real quick question. That nighttime person, never mind, I answered my own question. Thank you,
And
Ian.
that's 2.5 for all the custodians as well as both of those positions.
Yeah.
Is reflected in those numbers.
Thank you. All right, let's move to page 12.
I have a question on the disposal services. I know it's only a minor increase in here, but, and I know that figure bounces around year to year depending on how much trash is actually used. But I had talked to the previous business manager slash buildings maintenance person about possibly looking into negotiating a contract along with the town, with Monadnock, just to get a better rate. Because like for the dumpsters that the school has, Monadnock treats the town pretty well with the ones that we have at the fire station, the highway department, the water department. Realistically, those are free to the town. They don't cost us anything. Because of the contract we have with them at our landfill recycling center, they give us those for free as part of our contract, and I wanted to hopefully get the school to maybe come talk with the select board when we're going to do a negotiation on our contract and see if we could negotiate together to get a better rate, because it's just
I'd be
throwing a hat in the air, but I think we could be able to cut that price quite a bit.
I'd love it if we could. The reason we got away from MDS is because they only offer cardboard recycling dumpsters. So we're forced to put a lot more in the actual trash dumpster, where Waste Management offers recyclable dumpsters, so we can put cardboard, plastic bottles, tin cans, anything recyclable in that. So
Right.
we actually saved a lot of money over them when we switched
Yeah, no,
3 years ago.
I remember that
Because
conversation.
the increase of the ability to recycle, making less actual waste, because recycling is cheaper to dispose of than waste. But
Ian, when is our
Definitely.
when would we negotiate that contract again?
I believe summer, I'd have to look.
Summer coming up, so 2021?
Yeah, we
Where's
did
the
not
select
enter a
board?
long-term
I
contract.
think ours was coming up this coming year
So
too.
the
I'll have
stars
to
might
look to
align that
be
this
sure.
summer the school and the
Right.
select board might be able to,
Right.
okay.
I will. I'll send an email to Carrie, our town administrator, so that maybe she can reach out to you, and
Yeah, and I'll
if the
check when ours
timelines
is
line up right, this could be a blessing for everybody, hopefully.
And I mean, I know if they're off a little bit, we can continue to operate not without re-entering a contract. So if
Right.
dates don't align perfect, we should be able to hopefully sync up and make it work.
Right. I just feel like if we could do this, there could be a possible cost savings to the school. I mean, the town's
And maybe
contract.
the town.
The town's contract is just for our recycling center, so I don't see adding the school to it changing that price. But I think if we added the school on, we should be able to negotiate a better price for the school. So,
And you go through MDS, you said?
yeah, Monadnock.
Okay.
And it's actually funny we go through Monadnock because when we reached out to Waste Management, they couldn't do everything that Monadnock does for us. So,
Very good. All right, any other questions on page 12?
yeah.
Yeah, I have a
We'll
couple.
go with Teresa first.
Let's go with the oil and propane.
Same thing I was just
I
going to
don't know
ask.
what the actual number is for that, because that was my question, but the thing that Mary gave out before the meeting started was basically states that the propane is 295% overdrawn on the propane, but yet the oil is still 100% intact, which is $60,000. So have we not switched it around or what?
Are you looking at I'm assuming you're looking at the year-to-date? Is that what she's looking at?
Well, I'm looking at the year-to-date page, but on the budget that you gave to us, it says here that propane's going up 303%, because you're requesting an increase of $48,000 to make it $64,500.
Right,
But
so,
I got the year-to-date, which is not conducive to what is on the budget.
Because we're just coming into the heating season, so we really haven't purchased much propane yet. This year, we're going to use a lot more now that we are fully propane.
You're over budgeted by 295%.
But I guess, I'm trying to think of the best way to explain it. So last year, we budgeted for heating with oil and not propane because we hadn't converted 2 out of the 3 buildings.
Okay, so why is it in your propane line item?
Because we hadn't made the conversion, so we couldn't budget. If I came to you last year and said, I want a propane
you
budget.
didn't use any oil either, because it says you got 100% left in your line item.
What it is last year, that's the budget line. You see the 58,000 or whatever it is in there under the oil?
Yeah.
I didn't move the line item. I kept it where it is. So you're gonna see that we're gonna go over in propane, and it's gonna be way under in oil. It's just a matter of if I wanted to, I could move that, but that's the way the budget was done.
Are you gonna go over in propane and keep oil the same? Because you're gonna
Yes.
take the money out of the oil line item and pay for the propane?
Yes.
Because you switched it off. Well, you didn't do it yet.
No, I will not move the line items. I will leave them the way they are, the way the budget was. Because I'm not gonna shift line items. And last year, we didn't know if we were gonna convert 16 months ago, if we were gonna convert to propane. Now we have, so I'm not gonna use the oil line, but I'm gonna use the propane line.
But you better put more money in the line item.
No, they'll offset each other.
they'll offset each other.
They'll offset each other. That's what I'm
It's the
saying.
bottom line.
Sorry.
Do something to move it around to make it
Yes,
offset each other.
it'll probably come under what we have in the oil
Oil
line,
line.
because the propane's so much cheaper.
Seems like that was a good move, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Teresa, we're thinking the same thing. We're just not spitting it out.
And then next year,
100% left in one item and 295% overdrafted in another, so it's not lining up yet.
Yeah, no, and it won't until we start spending some more.
Now, what still runs off heating oil?
The
Ford
Ford
building.
Oh,
What is it?
The Ford building
the
behind
building
us.
out back,
yeah,
Yep.
okay.
that's why it shows such a
Yeah.
funky.
So we still have some in there. We're not gonna switch out that.
Thank you.
So,
Anything else on page 12? Okay. Page 13.
I don't have a question on page 12. I just wanted to note under regular transportation, that number includes adding back in high school busing.
Yeah, we assume that.
I actually did have a question on that. I was still making sure I was done with my questions on the propane and heating oil. On the transportation, regular transportation, last year during the budget season, I remember that we were told that all the school districts that use First Student went in together to try to put it out to bid to renegotiate.
Yep.
And how'd that go? Because I know last
Not
year
spectacular.
everybody seemed pretty sure that it was going to be a pretty good cost savings, which I felt like it should have been too.
Well, the last contract was done 4 years ago. In 4 years, the cost of buses and everything else has gone up. So our busing contract was not less than last time, and nobody's was. We all saw a sharp increase. We only got 2 bids in, and that was it. COVID hit, so unfortunately when that hit, we were hoping to get more, but we didn't. And the other one was substantially more than First Student was. The difference in the contracts this time around is we have some clauses in there.
We
For
have
instance-
what?
Clauses.
Clauses, meaning that if
Service.
they don't pick up a service, you know, 'cause at one point they were late out on, what's the road where the brewery is? Scotland Road, out there. And unfortunately, we had no recourse for that. Well, now we have recourse within the contract that if they don't do what they're supposed to do after so many times, we deduct money. We also are not going to pay bills that come in over 4 months after, because that's happened before. You know, we bought, in this contract, we do an upfront cost on our fuel of $6,000 to save us money on the contract as well. We're buying it up front. There's a lot of different things within it because we really wanted to make sure that if First Student was going to do this, they were going to do it right and that we would have a way out if it wasn't working. So we have a way out of the contract. We could go out next year and go out to bid again if we want to and pull out of it.
Yeah.
You know, we could look at the company that bid down in Massachusetts. Again, unfortunately, we ran out of time, but that may be an option to look at for next
It's the
year.
same company that bid on it like 4 or 5 years ago. I remember it was quite a difference in price. And
Yes.
they were a lot.
It's almost $100 a bus.
Yeah,
It's a huge difference.
yeah, it was a huge difference in
Yeah,
price.
and it's the same thing this time around. It
Yeah.
was. They were a big difference. So, but you know, we all ended up going through them, but we all agreed we would not sign a contract until we had the part of if they weren't doing their job that we could fine them for it.
Yeah.
So,
How many pages is the contract, a busing contract?
I don't know. It's got to be what, 30?
Oh.
Something like that. Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to look. I don't remember. It's a long contract.
Right. Well, I just know right now with COVID, nobody's allowed in the building or whatever at the school, but when are you in your office again? Tomorrow?
I'm in my office all the time.
Okay. Are
I'm in
you,
full time.
you there tomorrow?
Yes.
Okay.
I won't be there in the afternoon, but I'll be there in the morning.
Right. Oh, well, I know I can't walk in the door to fill out a right to know request, so
Oh, you can have a
I
copy of the
wanted to see if I
contract.
could get a copy of the busing contract. I don't know how to do a right to know request
As a
virtually.
contract?
He can have a copy of the bus. You can have a copy. Ben, you can have a
Yeah,
copy of the bus.
yeah.
Do you want me to email it to you?
That would definitely be easier
Yeah,
for.
I'll email it to you. Yep.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay, awesome,
You can
thank
have
you.
that. Yep.
All right, any other, well, actually, we've already said that. So, all right, page 13. I will say, especially in light of world events, I have very few issues with a new tech assistant this time around.
Whatever it takes. Not really, but our technology is certainly being utilized.
Yeah, I agree. I have no questions for page 13. Does anybody?
At this point in time, I don't have any
Yeah.
other
We can
questions.
revisit everything at the next meeting.
I mean,
Today, we're not voting on anything, so.
Right, some of the questions, well, most of the questions I had, actually, everybody seemed to have.
Yeah.
And I couldn't really make any new questions until I actually analyzed.
Yep,
What these
Tech
answers?
assistant wages, is that for a new position?
yes.
Yes.
That's to replace the position or a new?
No, that was the one we didn't approve
Is
last
that
year.
new or replacement?
That's a new position. We recommended that position last year as well,
Yeah,
and we're recommending it again.
yeah.
And I think, as Chester noted, in current times, it seems even more important. So there's,
Yeah, last year, the
I
bu-
can acknowledge when I make a mistake. We were wrong last year, as it would turn out.
if we had a crystal ball and saw this virus coming and all this online learning,
so
All right, I have no questions on 13. Does anybody? All right, onward to page 14. I have no questions here because, next meeting, when we do the work workshop with this.
Right, I mean, the two items on that last page are both
All right,
non-adjustable numbers anyway.
okay. This, unless, Lindsay, do you have anything you need to say?
No, I just wanted to make sure that that we have a list of whatever follow-up questions there were. I'm sure we'll talk about them at our board meeting on Thursday, but then we'll be prepared for next Tuesday.
All right,
Yeah, and just to let you know, I might have some more questions based on the year-to-date that she's given us.
yes, there was some documentation that came to us just before
Probably
the
not
meeting. So.
major, but you know what I'm saying, I'm just gonna take a look at that too.
And we do have a board meeting on Thursday. We'll be by Zoom, so you could tune in there. You could ask any questions beforehand.
Could you email me the information for that meeting?
For Zoom?
Yeah.
Yeah, yep.
Thank
And we
you.
do also post it online, but I can
That's
send
true,
you.
actually, never mind, I've got it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It will be on both, I try to blast it off on the Ashwaubenon General Store and
yeah, I
on the
realized
board,
after I
but
said it,
it's okay.
either of you have anything before, okay? Ben?
No, but I did just want to ask, I know the school board is currently discussing, or you're starting to discuss some of your other warrant article amounts.
We've already approved one.
Yeah,
Yep.
at last week's meeting, you approved one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or two.
Is that on your agenda for this week to discuss more?
We'll
of the-
continue to discuss warrant articles, yes.
Thank you.
I don't know if the rest of the budget committee was able to tune into the last Zoom meeting, but
No, I'm planning to be on this.
I've been trying to watch all of them that they're discussing budgets or be at any of them while we could still be at them.
I think at our next meeting, we should have default, so we'll be able to look at our usual Article 2 a little more. Article 3 is typically contract. We will not be ready to discuss that one in any detail. We still need to review our special education, and we have already approved the capital reserve article for $125,000.
And that was for the facilities.
Correct.
Yeah.
And we are also talking about a deficit warrant article. We'll continue to have that discussion as well.
Correct. And that was for 980 something. Is that what that
No.
was?
No, that's not the number, but we'll be discussing it on Thursday.
Okay. Well, I'll accept a motion to adjourn if one is offered. Oh, you've got a comment?
What's that?
He wants to know about public comment.
I mean, I guess my question would be, is it a question specific to the budget committee? Because if it's a question specific to the school board, I'm asking that you ask those questions as part of our school board meeting.
Fine. Come on.
Brendan Hubbard, 66 Woodard Avenue. I've reviewed it, I've watched the Zoom meetings for the school board as well as the budget committee, and it seems that there's been an increase in a lot of the travel lines,
A lot of the what?
the travel expense lines. We are in COVID, I don't know as we really should be traveling.
Well, it represents a problem, so.
As well as some of the ones that were mentioned, it seems that some of them don't fall in line with the fiscal 2019 and fiscal 20 actuals. I don't know if there's some things that can be maybe looked into as to why those were increased.
What was that question, sir?
About the supply line items?
The supply line items, I'm trying to find.
Well, I think I could answer that to you. A lot of them are up at 100% because they're trying to put money back in to the supplies and the material that they didn't get from the existing budget they're working on right now. They're trying to go back to where it was before
So,
the budget that was cut. Is that specifically what you're asking about the supplies and?
I'm seeing that they're not falling in line with the first two columns, the fiscal 2019, the fiscal 20.
So you feel there's a more significant increase in 2021 than what is being reflected in 20 or 19?
So I'm trying to find.
That's okay.
Take your time.
So, so if we look at the, on page 5, the supplies sped program, 2019 was $398, 2020 was $256, 2021 in a severely reduced overall budget, we went up to 2,000, and then this year we came back down to 1,000. So that's good that we came down to 1,000, but the prior two fully funded years didn't warrant even the 1,000, I guess, is the. So, just for some, I'm not, if we don't have the answer today, I completely understand.
Yeah.
Just for something for the budget.
Over the next week, we're gonna be going over it, so.
And then we mentioned the school psychologist budgeted in the contracted services line at $150,000. I think that was the number that was.
It's actually listed in 2 lines, but yes.
So, and I understand that you have to have that line item open to hire that position. Is there any way we can pull the $150,000 out of the contracted services line and make it like a combination position contracted services line that's separate in the effort? Because in theory, you should spend the $70,000, whatever it was, for the psychologist. You should underspend that line by 100% if you only have the contracted service for the entire year, correct?
In theory, correct. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm sorry. Finish. I was just going to say I'm going to do my best to explain it, and I might ask Mary to step up. Something that happens frequently within school staff is depending on where the funding is coming from, meaning whether it be grant funded or regular bottom line budget funded, kind of dictates what line it gets drawn out of. So in order to accurately reflect that there are psychologist services required under special education contracted services, that's why some of that money is listed in that particular line, because there is specific services that we charge to that line versus just a salary.
Okay, I guess I'm just looking for transparency, because in theory, if you have $150,000 budgeted in the contracted services line and then $70,000 budgeted in
And Mary, would you
the
like to?
position line, how can we get, you're in theory, never going to spend $220,000.
Correct.
How do we get the transparency?
I want to make sure that 150,000 is the accurate number and not just
It's
negative.
150,000. We don't have 220. Right. So we budget 150. No, a total of 150,000 we budgeted. So the other amount off of that would be in the services line. So, but if we had hired a psychologist, we can pick the other half of their salary and put it into a grant. Right now, we can't because we don't have that. It's a contracted service.
So you're talking,
I'm only got 150,000 in there.
okay, so only 80 of that 150 is.
Yes, you got it. That's right.
Yes.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yep, you got it.
And can I speak to the general supplies line? I just want you to know, paper alone is $6,000 a year out of that line. Paper alone for our pallets of paper that we have to buy it by the pallet is almost $6,000 out of our general supply line every
Thank you.
year.
I phoned a friend on the special ed supplies.
I didn't think this was that kind of meeting. You needed to use a lifeline yet.
Oh, I think we're always
We're going easy
I
tonight.
know, this is the friendly
I
one.
was banking on it from the beginning, but Val said special ed supplies were coming out of regular ed supplies lines in the previous years. And so at this point in time, I believe they've been separated into their own lines.
So the reason they show such an increase is because we're trying to more accurately account for those specific supplies.
Thank you.
Good questions.
Sure.
So on page 10, the school administrative secretary salary and receptionist will have a whole flip-flop there. what are the current hours that the receptionist works per day, per week? How do you break it down?
I think that's a Val question, Brendan, but
Okay.
I'm looking for I had a cheat sheet here. And so I'm just
Each
looking.
time.
I just don't want to speak to it incorrectly.
I appreciate that. And then the next question is, what are the hours for the new position?
In essence, it's adding an, I hope I get this right. Val will tell me. It's adding about 1 hour per day.
Okay.
It's adding a significant change in job responsibilities.
Yeah.
And it's adding 10 extra days a year than currently is staffed.
Okay, do we feel that the 5 hours is a week is enough to take on the added job responsibilities? It just,
I mean, so that job has been able to do everything it's needed to do previously.
okay,
One of the reasons that the receptionist is there for that amount of hours, and it's kind of hard to get stuck on those hours, is because that's the amount of hours that people expect somebody to be at the door, right? It's not that she's not capable of doing everything she's supposed to do within that allotted amount of time. But there will be additional tasks, so that extra hour will be incredibly useful and needed when those tasks are
because I
increased.
think between the salary increase and the benefits, health, dental, and social security, it adds up to about $50,000 for that 5 hours a week. That's a big expense.
So health benefits, school administration, that increase is not all just the
Yeah.
school administrative secretary
I
salary.
backed it out.
Okay.
Because to the best of my knowledge, that receptionist doesn't get benefits currently, correct? Does it not fall?
It does not fall under the benefits,
Okay.
correct?
So I back figured it out to be roughly 32,000 in cost for health insurance, and about $2,000 for dental and social security. Couple that with the increase of $13,450, $13,450 in the salary, comes out to just over about $50,000.
So one thing that happens when we have to budget, especially for positions that we're turning into full-time positions or new positions that require health insurance, we always budget at a family plan, so that we can, because you can't ask what insurance somebody's going to take, right? You can't make that a part of their hire. So yes, there's the potential that position could take a family plan, and that would be the actual cost. There's also a potential they might not, and we might see that savings.
Yeah, but we have to. We're asking the town for $12.835 million.
And-
Could possibly be. So we are heading into a recession. So it's just it's $50,000 that could. It's going to cost the town $50,000 for 5 hours a week.
For 5 hours, about 20 additional tasks, 10 more days. It's not just 5 hours a week.
Okay. And I did have the tech assistant. It's been brought to my attention through some credible sources that I would like to remain anonymous. That person is currently employed at the school doing the tech assistant job. We have that line item at $0 for 2021. What line item is he getting paid out of?
He's currently covered under the CARES Act money.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, at this time I'll accept the motion to adjourn if one is offered.
Oh, I'm sorry, I have one more thing.
By all means.
Oh, just real quick, because the chair of the budget committee is here, the chair of the select board, and the chair of the school board, I would just like a reminder that the budget committee passed a mask mandate, and the town should be under a mask mandate per the governor's order. I know it's difficult for all of us sometimes to enforce something that we might not necessarily agree with, but I think it's equally important that we show a unified approach and ensure that, for instance, anybody who might be at risk that wants to attend these meetings still feels safe doing so.
To be honest, I just didn't even notice.
Well, I'll comment on the town part of it because that's where I fall in. The town did not put out a mask mandate. The town did put out the notice to follow the governor's last executive order, which stated that masks are mandatory when social distancing is not possible. And I see there are 3 people in the room right now not wearing masks, and the 3 people are more than 6 feet away from each other. So I feel like they do fall under the governor's executive order.
So if members of the public want to attend a budget committee meeting, they can expect that the budget committee will yield to the town rule?
The budget committee did approve a mask requirement, actually, and I'm just going to say, still a new world out there with masks.
I
It was
agree.
not noticed, and that was an oversight.
And I'm speaking because it's hard for me to ask that be enforced. I respect that, and so that's why the 3 of us together can be unified in requiring that in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Well,
Nat, was that your
just so you know also that the town has not and does not plan on requiring a mask mandate. So we plan on upholding the governor's executive order to what he said.
Thank you. All right. Is there any other business coming for us?
Nope.
All right. We'll accept a motion if one is offered.
I think, were you asking something?
Yeah, you know,
Gotta give her the same shot as everybody.
Oh, I thought that
I
she...
thought, yeah.
I thought Lindsay was asking what
I thought
she
Lindsay-
wanted.
No, Lindsay did ask Natalie Cavado, 112 Willard Street. Thank you, board, for listening to me. Lindsay did cover what I was going to say. And the executive order does say, yes, while maintaining 6 feet of social distance. That's not 6 feet, neither is that.
Yeah, that is. That's 6 feet.
Definitely not 6 feet.
Between those 3 people? Yeah.
Yeah, no. Okay, whatever. I mean, well, that's still not following the governor's mandate because we're in a non-ventilated room. And it's for longer than, I believe the exposure is 20 minutes at a time. 10 minutes, thank you. So I would just ask that the board does, follow through on what they said, at least during budget meetings. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next meeting's Tuesday at 6 o'clock again.
Yeah, Tuesday the 8th, 6 o'clock, and please wear a mask.
Thank you, Chester.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? Okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Nobody ever wants to discuss adjourning.
No. It seems like